Check 1, 2.
Go! Curious about real estate? Yes! Then you've come to the right place. Get the knowledge you need. Get over the fear and get started. This is the Michael Quarles Real Estate Show with your host, Michael Quarles.
Hello, everybody. Michael Quarles with podcast number 163. Today, we have 5 questions sent in by real estate investors. And remember, if you have a question, send it to support@bsffacademy.com. Question number 1. Is there any reason your methods, marketing, negotiation, contracting, etc., couldn't be used to find a property you wanted as an owner-occupied property? Would any of the criteria or methodology change? Well, yeah, probably the criteria would change. I mean, I wouldn't want to live in any of the homes I bought as an investment. I like my little palace, and I like to be a king when I go home, and I certainly couldn't have a palace or be a king in some of the neighborhoods I buy houses in. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't kings and palaces for those folks that live in those neighborhoods, but for me, they wouldn't be. So, well, yeah, criteria would change. I would probably be more emotionally guided. I'm assuming the question, by the way, is that you're trying to find a property you want for yourself. Because it says property you wanted as an owner-occupied property. But that could also imply that you want to buy properties that are owner-occupied. I'm going to guess and say it's probably the first one, which is you want to find a property for yourself. Yeah, criteria would change, absolutely. Methodology would probably change because of emotion. You know, I always tell people, don't ever let your emotions get involved unless it's a personal piece of property or a house that you're going to live in personally. Let's face it, when we want something for ourselves, as an example of that is my Bentley. You know, when you spend more on your car than most people spend on their house, then you're a little bit crazy and emotions got in the way. But I absolutely knew I was crazy, and I knew I was making an emotional decision because I wanted my darn Bentley. Best thing I ever did. Craziest thing I ever did too, by the way. If you guys have not driven in a Bentley yet, you need to go out and drive in a Bentley. Take it for a test drive. The thing will absolutely go 200 miles an hour. And my son, who came back, he's a pilot in the Navy. Thank goodness that he's protected us. He took it for a test drive. He says, "Hey, can I take the car for a drive?" And I looked at him like, "Oh, you must be crazy." But I gave him the keys, and he said, "You want to go?" I said, "No, because you're a pilot. And I know him well enough to know that you never want to be in the vehicle with him when he wants to go test drive something." So anyway, he took it for a test drive, and he came back, and he was all excited. He says, "Man, that thing feels like my jet when I take off." I didn't want to know anything else about how his drive went after he said that. But I did walk around the car, make sure there weren't any dents or any dirt stains on my car from him taking it off-road. When I had my Hummer, on a side note, now, my Hummer was a street vehicle. Now, he thought my Hummer was an off-road vehicle. So the first time he asked me if he could take it for a drive, I said yes. Didn't realize he didn't understand it was a 4-wheel drive street vehicle, not a 4-wheel drive off-road vehicle. And it came back with mud all over the place and crap. And anyway, I should have learned my lesson the first time on the Hummer and not on the Bentley. But I didn't. When you love people, you let them do things that maybe are crazy. But would my criteria and my methodology change if I'm buying a house for myself? Absolutely. Now let's look at the question if it's not the question if I'm buying my house for myself, but if it's a question about if I'm buying owner-occupied houses. Yeah, it wouldn't really change. The criteria would change because naturally I'm changing it from absentee owner, out-of-state, in-state, out-of-city kind of stuff to owner-occupied. In some occasions, if I want to really focus and narrow in on my owner-occupants, I'm going to put an age criteria. I'm going to extend the years owned because I want a lot of deferred maintenance. I don't know about you guys, but as you age, from experience, I can tell you, so look forward to this. As you age, you want to do less. Like, it's not as exciting to go fix the fence as it might have been when you were younger. Although if you think fixing the fence is exciting, we need to have a conversation. But you'll start deferring some maintenance. And, the 4-bedroom house that was a family house that you've owned for 20 years. Well, the family's gone kind of thing. Your grandparents instead of just parents now. And so you don't need the 4 bedrooms. The neighborhood has changed. So you have an influx of people moving out, an influx of people moving in. So your neighbors have changed, the neighborhood's changed, the infrastructure, the services that are provided for the neighborhood are probably have changed enough that it doesn't feel like home anymore. And you have this 4-bedroom deferred maintenance house that you want to get rid of that you've owned for 20 years and it's probably free and clear. It's no longer an asset you consider using to buy your next house because at the time you're 65, which is the age criteria that I use, by the time you're 65, we no longer place the same meaning on our home from an asset perspective as we would when we were younger. In our 30s or late 20s or 40s, we look at our home as saying, I can take my home to use it to buy the next home. So if I sell this one, I'll have an equity base and I'll use that equity base to buy the next home. The older we get, the less that requirement is there. And when we get to the ages of, I don't need the asset to exchange it for another asset, I can just go buy that other asset because I've been successful in life. Then I can start selling this primary residence asset at a reduction of sales price and not have it harm me. And you'll find that as you start talking to the folks that are owner occupants. Now, if you don't put the age filter on it, which is fine, there's a lot of people I market to that I don't require that, but I'm just talking about when I'm wanting to really narrow in on, if my budget was limited in my area of the city that I wanted to market to could be affected by that criteria. Methodology? No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm going to be the guerrilla investor that I've always been. So that was a weird question. I don't know what really a question was. So if I didn't answer it correctly and if I was off base completely, I'm sorry. If so, let me know and I'll try again. Question number 2. I'm trying to get my real estate investment career off the ground, but I'm in a non-disclosed state and I'm having trouble valuing property. How accurate are the 7 data sets to use in non-disclosure states? Can they be used to pre-qualify houses? No. And they really, although we use them as well as we can to pre-qualify houses, we really ought not to rely on them anyway. What we're doing is we're taking the seller's opinion as fact. We're contracting based upon their opinion that is fact. Well, it's fact for a moment, so don't get all excited. Well, Mike, it's not fact until you prove it's fact. I understand that, but it's fact for a moment. So we're taking their opinion as fact for the moment. We're contracting based upon that fact. Then we're ordering our BPO and our appraisal. Now, let's face it, if you're in a non-disclosure state, you have the same problem everybody else does. So everybody else is going to have the same problem that you do. So it's not like you're left out. So it is what it is. And the BPO and the appraisal is going to come back and tell you whether or not you're right or not, if that fact is true or if it's not true. It's phantom fact. If it's not true, you just renegotiate based upon this person's opinion in the beginning. They were wrong. It's easier to renegotiate with someone who's wrong. If you were wrong, they can't renegotiate with you because it was your idea in the first place. So make sure you never take and put your personal opinion and dictate the value of the property based upon what you think you know, because you don't know anything. The seller knows more about their house than you will ever know about their house. Even after you own it, they'll still know more about that house if they live there any number of years. So just take their opinion as fact, prove them wrong, renegotiate. And if you're in a non-disclosure state, so what? So you are, okay? Everybody else if in that state has the same problem you do. Let's get over it. And it's harder. California, we give everybody everything. And, places like Texas and Kansas and some of those states are just craziness. It is what it is. But, go buy some houses. It's not like people aren't buying houses for profit. Maybe you have to work a little bit different. Maybe it's a little bit harder. Maybe it's a little bit easier. But it's different. So what? That's why we always rely on the 2 professionals after we get the contract, after we try to kick that contract, to tell us what the house is worth. So hopefully that question isn't built around a crutch, because I certainly hate crutches. Hate's a big word, so I dislike crutches. And I know some people think dislike and hate's the same thing, and it's not. And here's what a crutch is for me. It's an excuse not to do something. Well, the sky is red today. I can't go out and buy a house. Okay, whatever. Question number 3. At what benchmark do you suggest we look to replace ourselves? Well, that's an easy question. You have to look at the benchmark of, and for those of you that don't know, benchmarks are places in life that you have arrived at or somebody else has arrived at that you can look at and say, if they've done it, I can do it too. So as an example, I don't use the word competition. I use the word benchmark. Because everybody that's out there that's doing what I am doing, they either have been where I've been or going to where I'm going or at where I'm going. So it's a benchmark. So I either have set them a benchmark, letting them know that they can achieve something based upon the fact that I've achieved it, or that I look at it as though I can achieve it because based upon somebody else achieving it. It's the Roger Bannister thing. The first guy that ran the sub 4 minute mile, the next year, quite a few people ran the sub 4 minute mile because they knew he could do it, so therefore they could do it. Those are benchmarks. So what benchmark do you suggest we look to replace ourselves at? Or where do we have to arrive in order to say, hey, I want to get rid of this? Well, it's a personal question. You have to ask yourself what you hate. What aren't you good at? What don't you like doing? Replace that one first. When you know you can, and you know when you can, kind of thing. Like, I used to work out with a gorilla. Well, he wasn't really a gorilla, but he was a guy that, gorilla kind of body style, like 4 foot nothing and 4 feet wide and just all muscle. And, I think we had what would it have been? 4? So 4 and 8 times 40. No, he had 5 45s on each side and the bar was 45. I don't know how much that was, 505 or something like that. So he'd do bench press. He'd 500-pound bench press. Geez Louise. Well, I knew I couldn't get under 505 and even, attempt to try to do that. So I wasn't going to use his benchmark as going, okay, just because he can do it, I can do it. We have to get to that point. We have to have an understanding, okay, I'm at 497 now, so adding another 8 pounds, might be a little tough, which is why we need spotters. We don't need spotters to spot 505 pounds, guys and gals. We need spotters to spot that 8 pounds we've never done before. And that was an aha moment for me because I looked at him one day and said, if you can't do it, neither can I. And he said, I just need you for the last 8 pounds. So anyway, you kind of know. So the benchmark that I would want, or the thing that I would want to replace the soonest are those things that I'm not good at, that I'm just lazy at. We're all lazy. I'm lazy. And you could say, no, Mike, I'm not lazy. I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I go to bed at 2 o'clock at night, and I'm not lazy. I work, 23 hours a day. I do everything on time, and everything's perfect. Well, okay, fine. So find out whatever it is that you want to replace and find out what has to be done in order to replace it, and then replace it. But you'll kind of know. So eventually, here's what I want you to do. Everybody listening. When you set your goals for 2016, and this is not a far-fetched goal to set for 2016. And you're probably going to listen to this and go, well, you're the S word, which is none of the bad words, but an S word. Silly. Let's call it silly because that's an S word too. You're silly, Mike. When you hear this is what you're going to think. On your 2016 goal sheet, I want you to write down, my goal for 2016 is to stop being an investor. And then add to that, but I still want to own an investment company. That should be the goal for everybody. Let's face it. You raise your hand if you say, I like looking at houses. And I bet you I don't see anybody's hand, the proverbial hands out there in the stratosphere of podcasting thing. If I do, I'm sorry that you guys raised your hand when I asked you that question. If you like buying, looking at houses, because you shouldn't. You should like cashing checks. You should look like looking at that bank account balance. You should look like looking at the beach. You should like looking at whatever it is, those things that investment, buying houses give us or allows us to accomplish elsewhere in life. But we certainly shouldn't like buying houses or looking at houses. So put it on your goal sheet. There's your benchmark. I did it. You can do it too. Stop being a real estate investor, 2016. That's a benchmark.
Thanks for listening to Buy, Sell, Fix, Flip. We'll be right back. Are you running out of leads? It's time you tried Yellow Letters at yellowletters.com. Get motivated seller leads through yellow letters, postcards, zip letters, typed professional letters, greeting cards, door hangers, and business cards. Yellow Letters is a full-service marketing company created with your success in mind. Get the personal attention you need to get your direct mail campaign started and get in touch at yellowletters.com.
And we are back in 3, 2, 1.
Question number 4. Can you talk on such terms as warranty deed, grant deed, deeds of trust, first position, second position? I can talk all friggin' day on this stuff. Can I do it in a podcast? Not really. Gosh, this is like a 3-day boot camp. Grant deeds, warranty deeds, pretty much the same thing. Some states use grant deeds, some states use warranty deeds. Deeds of trust, that's a mortgage. That's a security instrument that collateralizes a loan. First position, second position, that's the recording dates of loans typically, unless it's a subordinated deed. So we can talk about this in length. Hard to do on a podcast. Sorry, guys. Question number 5. Is there a way for me to get the audio teachings that you have playing while on hold at Yellow Letters? No. No. If I gave it to you, then you wouldn't have to call us and order Yellow Letters and listen to that rock star who's talking on the hold music. For those of you that don't know, I have 8 audios that are playing on a loop. So if you call Yellow Letters and they put you on hold, we're actually teaching you a little bit about real estate investing. And funny enough, people have actually called us and said, can you just put me on hold? And of course we can't, because we're tying up our phone lines. But it's annoying, because when I'm talking to a coaching student and I call Yellow Letters to ask them a question about a coaching student's order, and they put me on hold, it's annoying because I'm listening to myself talk and I want to vomit in my mouth, because I think it's silly to listen to yourself talk, but I guess I do that a lot, but not that way. They're not available, and I apologize for that. But there are 163 podcasts now, so I mean, there's plenty of hours worth of listening if you guys have questions and you need answers. Yeah, I agree that some of that stuff is pretty cool, and I haven't covered it. You know, it's hard to cover everything, and when we set those in place, we had an outline that we followed, and some good stuff. But I think the podcasts are pretty good too. So I appreciate it. It's going to be a weekend for me coming up tomorrow. I'm going to go see the Denver Broncos and the Chargers play football, hopefully on Sunday. I have season tickets to the Chargers. I am not a Chargers fan, so no one throw eggs at me. I just happen to have season tickets because it's the closest NFL stadium to the place I live, and the Denver Broncos are my favorite team. And if you've been listening to my podcast long enough, you know that my wife last year for Christmas bought me everything Peyton Manning that there was on sale or being sold. So when I dress up, I absolutely look like Peyton Manning. I was smart enough to get visitor side seats for the season tickets, so I could wear my Peyton Manning jersey, proudly so, at the Chargers Stadium and not get booed too much. However, I don't think I'm going to be alone this Sunday in my Peyton Manning shirt. So my wife is going to be very confused when she looks back up at the crowd and can't spot me. Honey, I'll be the one sitting in our seat. Anyway, hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Remember, you're responsible for yourself. No one else is. If you don't go out and buy a house, it's your fault. No one else's. You can blame it on the economy. You can blame it on a seller that's not responding to mail. You can blame it on a lot of things, but you ought to look in the mirror and blame it on that person, because we bought a house yesterday. We bought one the day before, and, you know, it is what it is. And, you know, I hear this a lot. What do I have to do to be successful as a real estate investor? And the answer to that is you have to want to be. And, you know, yeah, sometimes marketing is slower. Sometimes there's more people in our market than there needs to be. And so opportunity is less. Well, go find the opportunity, because every day someone sells a house to somebody at a discount. Why can't it be you? The reason it's not you is because you're not taking the directive to make sure it is you. And you know what I'm talking about. You guys know when you're lazy. You know when you're not doing the stuff. And you know when you're the only person to blame for not having the things in life that you want to have is the person you're looking at in the mirror. And no one's standing behind you, by the way. It's all you, all by yourself. And when you realize that you're in charge of your destiny, and you're the only one, by the way, yeah, we have to stop at stop signs and get up at certain times in the morning because of other factors in life. But other than that, you get to plan your day. And whether or not you have a job or you're self-employed doesn't impact the ability to buy a house, because, you know, there are plenty of people out that don't have a job or have a job and are buying houses. So get up and go to work. And you know, you can have children, you can have this, you can have that, you can have holidays, you can have all kinds of excuses, but that's all they are. And if you want to buy a house, you'll buy a house. And I know this because I coach, And, I can have two people learning the same material, and one person utilizes what they've learned and implements it into their business system, and they go buy houses. And then the other person keeps asking me questions. It's like, well, wait a second. Obviously, when you have a personality that you can't figure out on your own destiny, where you want to go, then you're going to ask a lot of questions. But maybe you should ask those questions of yourself. And because the ones and the guys and the gals that are buying a bucket load of houses, the only questions they're asking is, what time can I come over tomorrow to buy your house? Would 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock be better? They're not asking, what should I do here and what should I do there? A lot of times they don't know either, but they don't let what they don't know interfere with what they want to accomplish, and that is to buy houses for a profit. Fear is a wonderful thing. A lot of people look at fear and they go, well, I'm afraid to do something, therefore I don't try. I'm afraid to fail, look stupid, look ignorant, whatever it is. I only have enough resource to fail once. Well, boo-hoo to that. Everybody fails once. If you only have enough resource to fail once, I feel sorry for you. I don't look at failure that way. I'm so afraid not to succeed, I do. I don't know if that makes any sense for some of you. Where some of us will say, I'm so afraid to fail, I don't. I'm so afraid not to succeed, I do. So it's a mind frame. You can do anything you want to do. I absolutely believe that. And fall forward. Remember, the academy's open. If you guys like me, want to learn real estate investing from me, let me know. We'll have a conversation, make sure we're a fit. I'm pretty blunt and abrupt sometimes, but I think you guys get that from the podcast. I'm trying to let my personality out more. Can you tell? Hope so. Also, there's a link now on Buy, Sell, Fix, Flip to the access to the list of discounted properties we're offering. If any of you want to look at that list, that's how you would do it now. And you guys have a great weekend. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Michael Quarles Real Estate Show. Get more info and stay in touch at michaelquarles.com.